Hi, my name's John Gaydon and we're in Bambara Road. Now we've been living in Kariong, just up the road from here, for the last 19 years. And often we've come down this road and walked down here to take in nature, to hear the sounds of nature. We've seen wallabies, we've seen snakes, we've seen lots and lots of native birds in this area. Back in 1999, we became aware that this was private land and that the owner was wanting to sell it. Now my wife and I at that time mounted a campaign against all the local politicians and the local media. I got on television, in Newcastle television, and we managed to stop the sale of the land. It just got too hot an issue for them. But unfortunately, a couple of years ago, the land got sold. A development application was put in and they started marking the trees for destruction. At that point in time, a guy called Jake Cassar stepped in and formed a group to protect the sacred land at Kariong, which is where I'm standing on now. If you look behind me, you'll see there are a number of trees that have been felled. And this only happened in the last week. And those trees being felled is the first sign of actual development and destruction of this habitat, which is so important. So in this video, I've got some clips from Jake and a couple of other people talking about the importance of the land. You'll see some pictures of the hieroglyphs, which are really amazing things, and they're only 100 metres from where I'm standing now, probably even closer than that. There's Aboriginal significance, there's endangered species, there's endangered plants. There are so many reasons why this little stretch of land needs to be saved. It needs to be bought by government, turned into the national park, so that none of those important things are lost to us forever. And for me, I'm a person who believes that we should be caring for our environment as well as our wallets, and that if we don't do things like saving a stretch of land like this, then it's a matter of time before we won't have a planet we can live on, and then all the money in the world will make no difference. After the trees were felled, Jake Cassar, a local activist, took up the plight, and with his friends they set up a tent embassy at the gates to Bambara. Listen to Jake as he tells us why we need to save this sacred space.
There's a lot of things I can't say in relation to this site because there's a lot of secret and sacred information, but I'll describe it as nothing less than a mecca where people would come for hundreds, men in particular would come from hundreds of thousands of kilometres to do business here, which I won't go into. That's basically why we're here. You know, we want people to get involved. We want this to grow. We're hoping to have about 50 to 100 people here by Saturday. We've got politicians coming on Saturday. You know, we want to talk to them about the 12 endangered species. We've got Darwinia glaucophila here. It's a plant with no common name, named after Charles Darwin. It's only got a 100 square kilometre distribution range. This is the only place it grows in the world. Okay, these aren't rare or threatened species, they're endangered species and cultural sites that need protecting.
The area around Bambara contains one of the largest collections of Australian Indigenous rock art. These need to be protected from development. Ian Sutton is an environmental activist and well-known community worker in the area. Ian explains why he has joined the Bambara cause.
Came to work with me running sort of Indigenous programs with other Indigenous people and kids and that type of thing, and so that's where I got to know him. And at that time I was running social programs, doing environmental work, and we started to work together and did a few social programs with kids together. And then Jake got involved in this Bambara program, and I'm an environmental activist as well, and I was doing other sort of campaigns, and I built community gardens and do bush regeneration and a whole lot of things. And anyway, Jake got involved with Bambara, and I could see how important the issue was, both from an ecological perspective and from a cultural perspective as well. And so I decided that it was an important issue that I would like to come on board and back up Jake with what he's saying. I have a bit of expertise in the ecology and the environment, and also Indigenous land management. And so I felt that somehow there could be some advantage of me coming on board and helping him.
I asked Ian to let everyone know what we can do to support this cause and save the sacred land.
People that I'm trying to get involved are like there's a lot of, I mean, Jake and there's a lot of other people that are focused on the political side of things and getting political involvement, getting political support. And then there's the community side of it as well. But my focus is on just getting the community to stand up and say, don't just write a letter to the politician, but actually come up and camp up here and come up here and be involved and see the bigger picture of what we're trying to do here. It isn't just about Bambara. This is about the community not being listened to, not being consulted with. You know, governments and bureaucracies making decisions that we don't want, but they won't listen to us. And that's happening everywhere.
A special feature of the Bambara area are the Egyptian hieroglyphs. Guarded by the grandmother tree seen here, you travel up a very narrow crevice to find these amazing rock carvings. Nina Angelo has been studying these for many years, and Nina tells the story of the Kariong Hieroglyphs.
Well, I came up here in '96 with some friends and saw the hieroglyphs. I've lived here since '75, and I've known, you know, a lot of the areas of the coast. I didn't know Jake then, but we came and saw these hieroglyphs, and there was another woman that arrived with her friend that time, and she was telling us how when she was a kid she used to live around here, and we didn't expect to find her right there in that crevice in the rocks, but she used to play. They were on a farm here, and she used to play around those rocks up there around the hieroglyphs, and she said she went to play there one day when she was young, and it was all cordoned off. And she didn't know what was going on. They told her to go away and wouldn't let her in, and there were tents and cordoning. So she went home and told her mum, and her mum, and they said that something about the university was there, and she rang up the university and they wouldn't give her any information. They basically hung up on her, and they said, you know, you're not allowed to go there. So she was telling us that story, and that sort of got our interest, apart from the hieroglyphs there. So I've taken some friends back in the meantime over the years. One friend was a documentary filmmaker, and she's quite well known internationally, but at the time she lived here on the coast, and she looked at it and we saw a big hole that had been carved in the ground, in the sandstone just above it, and she started researching it, looking at maybe doing something further with it. And she found out from the library and from an old man called Raymond Johnson, who's an eccentric ancient Egyptologist, that there was a whole lot of truth in that, and he gave her all this information, which she passed on to me, and I've been holding on to for years, knowing that there was going to be something built there, and I was really concerned that it would back onto the area. And then Jake appeared fighting for it, and that's when I gave him the information that I had, and started being involved a lot more.
So in this one little area of Bambara Road, we've got some ancient hieroglyphs, we've got endangered species, endangered plants, and Aboriginal sacred sites. So with all that in mind, I thought I'd ask Jake what governments have done to support the project.
A lot of talk, a lot of letters, a lot of meetings, and we're over the talk now. Again, it started in January 31st, 1931, not to mention Pemulwuy, Mosquito, and the Indigenous people that fought to protect this land back in the day. You know, it's gone on for too long. Enough words have been spoken. The block only one went for 40 grand and one went for 25, I think. You know, they're really insulting this community by not just buying this land and donating it to the national parks. Council's got the money to do it, they're just refusing to use it.
Finally, I asked Jake, Nina and Ian why they believe it is so important to save Bambara from development.
There's a whole problem in the whole system and everything, but I think Bambara for me is the place that we make the stand. This is the spot that we say that enough is enough.
Get on the phone, get on the email to the local candidates coming up for the election and let them know that there's so much community will to protect this. Since we've been here, it's our day 4, since we've been here, it's not only bushwalkers and locals that we know from around this area. There's been at least a couple of dozen people going for a run down there. A fella and his wife were down there with their dog. A lot of people walking their dogs in and out of here. A lot of people use this area for exercise as well. We need to get a sign right at the front. We've got a few signs hanging from trees, but we really want to communicate with some really good signs what's going on here, because this area really needs to be protected.
Look, it is about this place, but it's really about our earth, our country. I mean, if people don't get together and start speaking up, we're going to lose all that is important for our children, our grandchildren, for the animals, for our flora, our fauna. I mean, human beings have already done terrible damage to this earth, and it's time that people get up and speak up and not be afraid and join forces, because only when we're a combined, strong unit can we really achieve anything.
My Pera. And when we look around, the time is rapidly approaching when natural environments, natural and spoilt vistas are sadly beginning to look like leftovers from a vanishing